You walk up behind the ball, you look at the target, you feel aimed. You're not, and neither was I. Here's what I found. The way you stand behind your ball, and where your eyes go in those 2 seconds before you step in, decides where that shot goes before the club ever moves. 9 golfers out of 10 do it backward. I did it backward for years, and blamed my swing the whole time. The trail to the fix started in a used bookstore in a 1974 hardback written by a man who won 18 major championships. He put the whole thing in one short paragraph. Then the golf world quietly stopped teaching it and started selling us plastic sticks instead. Stay with me. I'm going to hand you the exact routine, and you can do it on your living room carpet tonight, with a club you already own. Let me take you back to the moment I knew something was wrong, because it wasn't on a driving range, and it wasn't during a lesson. It was on the 10th tee of a flat, ordinary municipal course on a Tuesday morning. I had spent the whole front 9 hitting the ball well on the range, and then leaking almost every drive to the right on the course. Same swing, same tempo, same club, 2 completely different results. And I remember standing there thinking a thought that changed everything for me. If my swing is the same, the problem has to be something I'm doing before I swing. So I did something I'd never done. I asked my playing partner to stand directly behind me, down the target line, and just watch where I aimed. Not my swing, my aim, my setup. The part every golfer treats as an afterthought. He told me my club face was pointed a good 15 to 20 yards right of where I thought I was aimed. And here's the part that stopped me cold. I would have sworn on anything that I was aimed straight at the flag. My eyes told me one thing. Reality was another thing entirely. I was setting up wrong every single time, and I had no idea, because the mistake was invisible from where I was standing. That's the thing about this error. You cannot feel it. You cannot see it from over the ball. It hides in the 2 seconds when you're standing behind the ball, and it poisons everything that comes after. A perfect swing on a crooked setup gives you a crooked shot, every time. So the question became simple. What are the good players doing behind the ball that the rest of us are getting wrong? And why did nobody ever teach me this? That question sent me digging, and what I dug up was older and stranger than I expected. Now let me jump back, because to understand what I found in that bookstore, you need to understand what I was doing wrong first. And you're probably doing the exact same thing. Here is the habit that 9 golfers out of 10 get wrong. You walk up behind your ball. You look down at the ball. You look up at the target far away in the distance, maybe 150 yards off, maybe 200. You try to hold that faraway picture in your head. Then you walk into the ball, take your stance, and try to line your body and your club face to a target the length of 2 football fields away that you can no longer even see clearly once you're bent over the ball. Think about how impossible that actually is. You're trying to aim at something 150 yards away using a club face 2 inches wide, while looking down at a small white ball near your feet. The margin for error is enormous. A tiny misread of that distant target becomes a huge miss by the time the ball lands. That's why you can feel perfectly aimed and be 20 yards off. The distance itself is working against your eyes. And this is where the trail got interesting, because I assumed this was a modern problem born from bad instruction. I was wrong. This problem was solved decades ago. Solved completely. Written down in plain English by the best players who ever lived. And then it just faded out of the common teaching. Nobody sat me down at age 12 and told me. Nobody told most of you either. The first real clue came from a book I'd heard of but never actually read cover to cover. Ben Hogan's 5 Lessons, The Modern Fundamentals of Golf, published in 1957. Now everybody quotes Hogan on the swing, on the grip, on the famous pane of glass. But buried in there, Hogan is meticulous about the setup. He treated aim and stance as the foundation of the entire thing. He believed most amateurs ruined the shot before they ever took the club back, and he said so plainly. But Hogan gave me the what. He told me setup mattered more than I ever believed. What he didn't fully hand me was the simple trick, the mechanical shortcut a regular person could use every single time without thinking hard. That piece came from somewhere else, and finding it is what turned this from a hunch into a case I could actually close. So I kept pulling the thread. Therefore, I went looking for the one player who was famous, above everyone else, for a bulletproof pre-shot routine. And that name kept coming up over and over in the old forums and the dog-eared instruction books. Jack Nicklaus. Here's what pulled me deeper though, and this is the part that started to make me a little angry. The more I read from these old masters, the more I realized this knowledge wasn't lost because it stopped working. It worked perfectly. It was lost because it was free, it was simple, and nothing about it could be sold to you twice. Let me explain what I mean, because this is where the story stops being about golf tips and starts being about who profits from you staying confused. Walk into any golf store today. What do they sell you to fix your aim? Alignment sticks, little fiberglass rods you lay on the ground, laser devices that clip to your hat, alignment mirrors you set down by the ball, training aids with straps and gates and gadgets, apps, launch monitors that cost more than a used car, lessons packaged in bundles of 6 and 10 and 12. Now none of that is evil on its own. Some of it even helps on the practice range. But here's what I realized standing in that store aisle. Every single one of those products exists to solve a problem that Ben Hogan and Jack Nicklaus solved for free, with nothing but a way of using your own two eyes. The old method needed no purchase, no subscription, no replacement parts, and a method you can't sell is a method the industry has no reason to keep teaching. Think about the plain economics of it. If I teach you a free 2-second habit that fixes your aim forever, I sell you one lesson and I never see you again. But if I keep the fix vague and complicated, if I convince you that your aim problem requires a new gadget every season and a fresh set of lessons every spring, then you keep coming back. You keep paying. Your confusion is the product. Your dependence is the business model. And that's what happened to this simple setup habit. It didn't get banned. Nobody outlawed it. It just got quietly buried under a mountain of things you have to keep paying for. Until an entire generation of golfers, me included, never even heard the plain old version. But knowing I'd been sold the complicated version didn't fix my slice. I still needed the actual method. So let me take you to the science of why my eyes lied to me on that 10th tee. Because once I understood this, I couldn't unsee it. Here's the clue that cracked the whole optical side of it open. Your eyes are not on the target line. They're above it and to the side of it. Sit with that for a second, because it's the entire reason your aim feels right and is wrong. When you take your golf stance, your eyes are not sitting on top of the line from the ball to the target. They're set back off to the side, above the plane, looking across at an angle. It's the same reason a road that runs dead straight away from you can look like it bends. Your brain is guessing at a line it isn't actually standing on. Scientists call the effect parallax, the way an object's position appears to shift depending on where you view it from. I tested this on myself in the most basic way possible, and you can do this tonight to prove it to yourself. I put a ball down on the carpet. I picked a target across the room, a table leg. I got into my stance, and I aimed what I was dead certain was straight at that table leg. Then, without moving my club, I laid another club along my toe line and stepped back to look. I was aimed way off, not a little, a lot. My body was pointed feet to the right of where my brain swore it was pointed. Do that once, and you will never trust your naked eye over the ball again. The misread is real, it's physical, and it's baked into the geometry of how a golfer stands. This is not a talent problem. The best eyes in the world have the exact same blind spot. The difference is, the good players know about it, and they beat it with a routine. You and I were just never told the routine existed. Now here's where a lot of people tune out. And I want to catch you before you do. Maybe you're thinking this is all fine for people who can get to a range 3 times a week, or pay for a coach, or afford a fancy practice bay with mirrors and mats. Maybe you're thinking this isn't for someone who plays twice a month and practices in the backyard. I thought that too. I was wrong, and this is the part I most want you to hear. You do not need a range. You do not need a coach. You do not need to spend $1. Everything I'm about to give you, you can build into your game inside your own home, on the floor you already have, with the club sitting in your garage right now. The fix was always designed for the ordinary golfer with ordinary time and an ordinary wallet. That's exactly why the old masters wrote it in plain language. It was meant for everybody, not just tour players. So let me give you the first piece you can use in your living room tonight, before we get to the big one. Take any club, lay it on the floor pointing at a target across the room, a doorknob, a chair leg, anything. Now stand to it like you're going to hit a ball, but instead of trusting your eyes, set your feet parallel to that club on the floor. Look down. Feel how that stance feels when you know for a fact it's square, because the club on the ground proves it. 9 times out of 10, a correct stance will feel like you're aimed too far left. It feels wrong. That wrong feeling is the exact thing that's been sabotaging you. You've been standing open and calling it straight your whole golfing life. Do that drill 5 minutes a night for a week, and you retrain what square actually feels like. No range, no money, no coach, just your own floor and a club you already own. That alone will save some of you 5-10 strokes around, and it costs nothing but a week of 5-minute evenings. But feeling square at home is only half the puzzle, because when you get to the course, there's no club lying on the ground to line up to. You can't lay a club down and aim it during a real round. So how did Nicklaus and Hogan aim perfectly, out on the course, with nothing on the ground, every single time, under pressure, for decades? That's the piece I was still missing, and it's the piece that closes this entire case. Before I take you back to that bookstore one more time, let me stop for a second, because if this aim problem hit you the way it hit me, there's something you deserve to know. Picture it. You're standing over a drive on the first tee, dead sure you're aimed at the middle of the fairway, and the ball sails right into the trees again, and you blame that swing you've been rebuilding for 20 years. It was never the swing, it was the 2 seconds behind the ball. That's the exact thing this whole channel is built on, and the author put every piece of it into a set of digital books called the Complete Golf Fix System. First Fix hands you the 6 fundamentals most instructors skip, including a 15-second grip audit that changes your ball flight right away, and the alignment sequence done in the correct order. Finally, Precision Golf goes deeper, decoding what your misses are really telling you, and showing you how 10 inches of setup reshapes your entire ball striking. And the whole collection carries a 6-week fundamental protocol worksheet, so you're not guessing anymore, you're following a plan. Here's the free part you can prove tonight, no book needed. Lay a club on your carpet pointed at a doorknob, set your feet parallel to it, then step back and see how far left square actually feels. If that surprised you the way it surprised me, the books just took the guessing out of the rest. The fastest way to get the books is to scan the QR code right there on your screen, or go to the link in the description or the pinned comment. And here's the honest reason to do it now, not someday. Every round you play before you fix your aim is a round you're paying for a mistake that's already costing you strokes, this weekend and every weekend after. So with that in your back pocket, let me take you back to that used bookstore one more time, because this is where all of it finally clicked together. I had the Nicklaus book in my hands, Golf My Way, the 1974 edition, the one that sold millions of copies, and then somehow got forgotten by the people who needed it most. I was flipping through looking for the swing chapters like everybody does, and I almost missed it. It's not a whole chapter, it's a short passage, tucked in near the front, where Nicklaus describes what he does before every shot he hits. And here it is. The thing 9 out of 10 golfers get wrong behind the ball, solved in about 3 sentences by the greatest winner the game has ever known. Nicklaus wrote that he never, in his words, hits a shot, even in practice, without first picking out a specific target. But that's not the secret. Everybody picks the flag. Here's the secret. He didn't aim at the faraway target. He stood behind the ball, drew an imaginary line from the ball back to the distant target, and then he found a spot on that line, just a few feet in front of his ball. A leaf, an old divot, a discolored patch of grass, a broken tee, anything. 2, 3, maybe 4 feet ahead of the ball, sitting right on the target line. Then he walked in and he aimed the club face at that spot. That close little spot. Not the flag 150 yards away. The mark 3 feet in front of his ball. I sat down on the floor of that bookstore when I read it. Because it's so obvious once you see it, and so invisible until someone shows you. Think about why this beats the parallax problem completely. Squaring your club face to a mark 3 feet away is easy. Your eyes can do that accurately because the distance is short and the angle is tiny. It's like the difference between threading a needle held right in front of your face versus threading one across the room. And here's the geometry that makes it perfect. If your club face points at a spot 3 feet ahead that sits exactly on the line to your target, then your club face is automatically pointed at the target too. The spot and the flag are on the very same line. Aim at the near thing, and you've aimed at the far thing, without ever asking your eyes to do the impossible. Nicklaus had a name he borrowed for it. He compared it to bowling. A good bowler doesn't stare at the pins 60 feet down the lane. He aims at the arrows and the marks on the lane just a few feet in front of him, because he knows if the ball rolls over the right near mark, it will find the pins. Golf is the same. Aim small and close, and the far target takes care of itself. That's the whole method. Find your intermediate target. A spot a few feet in front of the ball, dead on your line. Set the club face to it. Then set your body parallel to that same short line. And swing. It costs nothing. It needs no equipment. It works on every course on Earth, because every course has a leaf or a divot or a mark you can find 3 feet ahead. And it was written down in plain English 50 years ago in a book that sold millions, and then it slowly vanished from the way the game gets taught to regular people, because you cannot put it in a box and sell it to somebody twice. Now let me tie the two halves together, because separately they're good and together they're the entire fix, and this is the exact routine I now use on every single shot. I stand behind the ball first, always behind it, on the far side from the target, so I'm looking from the ball toward the flag. That position, standing behind, is where I draw the line in my mind from ball to target. Most golfers rush this or stand off to the side. Standing directly behind the ball is the only place you can see the true line, because from there your eyes are on the line instead of off to the side of it. Then, while I'm still behind the ball, I pick my spot, my intermediate target. I hunt for something small and specific 2 to 4 feet in front of the ball, sitting right on that line to the flag. The more specific the better. Not a general area. One exact mark. A single leaf. One dark blade of grass. The chip in an old divot. Then I walk in, and now I've got the near spot to aim at, so squaring the club face is easy and honest. I set the face to the spot. I build my stance parallel to the short line between my ball and that spot, the same square feeling I drilled on my living room floor. And only then do I swing. That's it. That's the thing. 9 golfers out of 10 get wrong behind the ball. They stand behind the ball and try to aim at a target 150 yards away that their eyes physically cannot aim at accurately. The fix is to aim at something 3 feet away instead, and let the geometry carry it the rest of the distance. Since I started doing this, that slice I fought for years, the one I blamed on my swing, on my clubs, on the wind, on everything, it mostly disappeared. Not because my swing got better. My swing barely changed. It disappeared because I was finally aimed where I thought I was aimed. I'd been making decent swings at a crooked setup and paying for it every round. Let me put some real numbers on why this matters so much. Because the cost of not knowing this is bigger than most golfers realize. Say you're aimed just 5 degrees off at address, which is a tiny amount, small enough that you'd never feel it. Over a 150-yard shot, 5 degrees of aim error puts your ball roughly 13 yards offline. 13 yards is the difference between the green and the bunker, between the fairway and the trees, and 5 degrees is nothing. The misreads I was making from the parallax problem were far bigger than 5 degrees. I was starting balls 20 yards offline before I even moved the club, then making an athletic move to try to save it, which only added spin and made everything worse. Now multiply that across a lifetime. If you've played for 20, 30, 40 years believing your bad shots came from your swing, and the real cause was hiding in the 2 seconds behind the ball, think about all of it. The lessons you paid for that fixed the wrong thing. The gadgets that gathered dust. The rounds you walked off frustrated, certain you just didn't have the talent. The whole time, the answer was 3 sentences in a 50-year-old book you probably had a copy of, or your father did. That's what got me about this case. Not that the fix was hard. That the fix was easy and free and old, and we were never simply handed it. It got replaced by things with a price tag, and the plain version got left behind. And here's a detail that made me sure this wasn't just Nicklaus's personal quirk. When I kept digging, I found the same core idea in other serious teaching. The intermediate target shows up in the deep technical writing of the era. Homer Kelly laid out the geometry of aim in his dense 1969 book, The Golfing Machine, treating the setup as a precise, aimable system rather than a feeling. The best minds in the game all landed in the same place. Aim is a system you can build correctly, not a feel you're born with or without. The pros just kept using it, while the rest of us drifted away from it. So let me hand you the complete routine one more time, clean and simple, so you can take it to the course this weekend and prove it to yourself. Start at home this week. 5 minutes a night. Lay a club on the floor pointed at a target across the room. Set your feet parallel to it. Learn what real square feels like, and get comfortable with the fact that correct will feel like you're aimed left at first. That's your calibration. Then on the course, stand behind the ball, directly behind it, looking toward the target. Draw the line in your mind. Find one specific small mark 2 to 4 feet in front of the ball, sitting right on that line. Walk in. Aim the club face at that near mark. Set your body parallel to the short line. Trust it. Swing. You will not need a single new piece of equipment. You will not need a lesson. You will not spend $1. You'll just start aiming where you actually intend to aim. Probably for the first time in your golfing life, using a method that was free and proven, and sitting in plain sight the whole time. I chased this thing for one reason. I was tired of being told my problems needed a bigger wallet, when it turned out the answer was older than I am and cost nothing but the willingness to look for it. That's the feeling I want to leave you with. Nobody took your good golf away with a rule or a ban. They just stopped telling you the simple thing and started selling you the complicated thing, and you can take the simple thing back tonight. If you're the kind of person who wants to see the whole trail and not just the shiny headline, who'd rather understand why something works than just be handed a gadget, then you and I are cut from the same cloth, and you're going to want to stick around for what I dig into next. So here's what I want from you. Go find your intermediate target this weekend, and then come back and tell me. What did you pick as your spot, 3 feet in front of your ball? Was it a leaf, an old divot, a broken tee? Tell me in the comments what you used and whether your aim felt as wrong at first as mine did. I read them, and I want to know if the correct stance felt as strange to you as it felt to me. Leave a comment. Don't just think it. Type it out. Because this is exactly the kind of thing this audience never says out loud and always should. And if you want to keep pulling these threads with me, the free ones, the old ones, the ones that got buried because nobody could charge you twice for them, subscribe and come along. There's a whole movement of us now, people who are done paying rent on knowledge that used to be common sense. Next time I'm tracing something even stranger. There's an old grip pressure secret from the same era, a thing the best ball strikers all did with their hands that never made it into modern teaching, and once I found where it came from, I couldn't believe it had been sitting there the whole time. That's the next case. I hope you're there when I crack it open. Before you go, let me tell you where this leads. This video showed you the mistake. Inside the practical wisdom circle, I hand you the full routine you can walk out tonight. If something isn't clicking, you ask me, and I answer you myself. Folks just like you are already in there with me. Just point your phone's camera at the code on the screen, and you can cancel anytime with one click. Now that your setup is solid, there's one more thing that could be quietly costing you good shots. In the next video, I'll show you why I never start with the club behind the ball. It's right here. Let's keep going.